had an issue with indie horror for the longest time, and there's a reason why I haven't dived deep into it much. You see, after Five Nights at Freddy's success, over the next decade a ton of young or flat out new developers learned lessons to try to be just as big. The issue is just that they often learned the wrong lessons. These guys always just focus way too much on lore, franchising, selling merchandise, and that very clearly does overshadow the gameplay. You know, the reason you'd buy a video game. This isn't even a Telltale situation where, at least with those games, while gameplay's not the top priority, the cinematic elements do hold up enough to forgive that. So much indie horror games though, they just don't do much mechanically speaking. Like, I like Poppy Playtime Chapter 1, but I have to admit, there's not that much going on, just a small few puzzles here or there and just walking around. That's kinda how I see other indie horror games too, and it just seems like that's all they do. And by seems, I mean, I've played a bit of Bendy, but I haven't played like Garden of Banban. I know it may be weird to judge something if you haven't played it, and I do live up to that rule. You shouldn't judge something and say it is bad if you've not played it. But that's why I'm saying it just seems like those are the cases with games like Banban. And the reason why that is just because with most of these indie horror games that try to appeal to YouTubers, they don't really give you a reason to play these games. Like, they're just built for Markiplier to play it, get into the lore, buy merchandise, and mechanics and gameplay just don't feel like a priority. For many people, when they see a new indie horror game, most of the time they're not like, oh, I've so got to play this. They're more like, oh my god, I can't wait for YouTuber in question to play this. Finding Frankie though, when I saw the trailer, I wasn't gonna let the tiniest spoiler hit me. I had to play this thing for myself when it got a PS port. Either way though, it didn't take long for a PS port to come out and for me to absolutely love it. My unboxing video of the winning edition also did insanely well. 2024 was such a great year for games both big and small, and this game definitely has to be high up there. Finding Frankie not only shattered the barrier to pieces of what I thought an indie horror game could be, but in 2025, it was one of my most fun gaming experiences, that first playthrough. It's also the first and only game as of now by Superloo Games. Superloo or Superlau? I don't know, Superloo makes more sense, so I'll stick to that. But why was this really small game such a big deal to me? To find out, let's dive deep into the controller and play Finding Frankie. Finding Frankie stars you as an unknown character who I'm gonna call Lucky, as he is referred to several times as the lucky contestant. Lucky wakes up in a game show after a Willy Wonka style sweepstakes takes place to find contestants for the Finding Frankie game show. The main character is oddly really desperate, to the extent of buying, no joke, 769 boxes of cereal for that slight chance to make bank. Clearly he wasn't in that much of a need for money if he can pay for that much cereal. I got to ask, did he leave all of that cereal to go stale in his apartment? Because that place is going to be Chernobyl when he gets back. On top of that, this is a critique for both this game and Willy Wonka. These people go so crazy trying to get these golden tickets. How do you even know there's one in your own country with how few there is? To be positive though, I want to mention something quickly. The mask you wear. I love the way it hides the emotions on the death screens with a static smile.
I wear a mask with a smile for hours at a time.
I also find it weird you have to put the suit on in the game, but it's already modelled onto your character. I also just want to go back a second and praise the title screen. A great title screen can capture the game's vibe and feel perfectly, or at least a small part of it, hiding what's to truly come but still giving off the energy the game has. I've always found this aspect of gaming really underrated, if I'm being honest. When a game's bought or downloaded, one thing I'm really hyped about is what will the menu screen look like. That may sound stupid, but I really care about this stuff. These are literally your first impressions of the game. They do matter. I know a lot of people also get really nostalgic for old DVD menus and how creative they could be. It's kinda similar to this actually. This game's title screen did also get me to love title screens way more and realise how much I really love them. With all of this said, Finding Frankie has one of my favourite title screens in any game. The music is very dreary and creepy, yet still really catchy. The colours are muted and dark despite the brightly coloured course in the background. We also see our protagonist standing alone on a platform, which really does kind kinda influence the atmosphere as well, because you do feel quite alone a lot of the time. Not in the same sense as you're the only one here, like in Poppy Playtime a lot of the time, but more in the sense of loneliness as you don't really know if you can trust anyone. That kind of loneliness. I love how scared he is whilst we can see the other dead contestants. A really great showing of how scary this game show you've unluckily entered really is. If you hover over play, Lucky can actually shake his hands trying to get you to not start the game because he's just so scared of what's ahead. I love that so much. In fact, on PC, if you hover over exit, Lucky acts a lot more enthusiastically because again, he's so scared he just wants you to quit the game. That is so awesome. Back to Frankie though, you then have the titular evil robot from the title of this game lurking in the background. He's bold, slowly moving, waiting, watching as he rises up from below and leans, tilting his twisted body. That grin also just really helps. I just want to compare Frankie's design to Huggy Wuggy's, as there's 3 important things I think that Frankie does better. 1. The mouth. Huggy has a mouth filled with sharp teeth and very rubbery lips and fur around his face. Frankie has a very similar mouth, but I think it just looks lots more natural on him just because of the rougher textures and look to his face. Instead of having fur, you can see all these little scratches, and just you can tell that this material is a lot rougher. And it just goes really nicely with this mouth. 2. You need to find a great balance between scary and fun children's mascot. Five Nights at Freddy's did this perfectly. Huggy Wuggy tends to lean more into the fun side, where Frankie, a lot like Freddy Fazbear, just has the perfect balance of both sides. 3. The longer limbs. Both have longer arms and legs. Huggy's are just more typical and fit the toy theme, but Frankie's, these look really intimidating and they contextualize how far they can really stretch nicely. These long stretchy arms also just really do also contextualize the athletic ability and agility a lot better. The game's first round starts and you immediately are the only one left, meaning I should win by default. I mean, it wouldn't be a long video game if you did. I mean, it's still not a long video game anyway, but it'd be shorter. I love that this game just gets right into things. It doesn't take ages with any mystery. It's like, you know what you're here for, this is the thing you're going to be scared of, go. I love how this one guy tries to go backwards to escape, but then he actually closes the shutters. In fact, there is a whiteboard you find later on in the game, and it doesn't say that this character died yet, which is good because the scene that takes place here is when the host finds out this character died, they didn't have time to write it on the whiteboard. After this first encounter, you can turn right for the tutorial, but because I was so immersed on my first playthrough, I didn't even notice that that was there and I just kept going straight forward and missed the tutorial entirely. When I went to look at the trophy list and noticed a tutorial one, I was rightfully confused too. I love this sign up here telling parents to look after their kids and threatening that Frankie will eat the kids if they don't. It's just really funny and very believable after the first encounter, and the we think just only makes it funnier. Also, Frankie looks like Pim from Smiling Friends here. Like, I can't be the only one who sees that, right? I love finding Frankie, Charlie. I love finding Frankie. In fact, now that I mention it, the game has a good amount of comedic details, moments, and things like that.
Dear lucky contestant, it seems the other competitors have mysteriously died. Not sure how that happened, but oh well, you're still here. Frankie doesn't feel like himself today. He normally doesn't go on mass murdering sprees, but don't worry about that, lucky contestant. We can still make this a fun, PG-rated adventure!
I also love this free update where they added a freaking speedrun timer, because I mean, that makes so much sense for a game show game. Just wish it showed your final time at the end of the game. If I had friends on PlayStation who played this thing a lot, I swear to God, I would just go in and beat their records all the time just to be annoying. I quickly want to talk about the art direction, set design and visuals here too. I'll get to gameplay soon, I swear. It's really good and full of variety. The game knows when to be bright, colourful, fun. It also knows when to be darker and when to mix the two sides together, and on top of that, it knows many different ways to do that. From areas so bright and colourful they wouldn't be out of place in an actual children's game, to things that are really grimy and dark. Oh, and this red area before the final boss, so good. The use of colours in this game is just perfection. There's also this course here. You've got corpses and blood everywhere just to show that yes, other contestants did in fact die here. As for the controls, L2 to sprint and R2 to crouch may sound odd, but trust me, it works like a dream. Holding R2 while sprinting also makes you slide, and trust me, this is very useful. The only thing you're worrying about with your right thumb then, because of this, is the jump button, and then you have to occasionally interact with something like a monkey bar to swing off of. The controls are so easy and intuitive for a player to just pick up and understand immediately. I love that, especially because in a horror game, some people are prone to panic and forget the controls. We definitely need more horror media that themes itself around a game show, honestly. If you know any horror game show media things, tell me in the comments. The only thing I can think of is that one Doctor Who episode, and then that one section in Split Fiction. One thing I should mention about this game, and this is a core reason the game works by the way, is the mix of horror and adrenaline. The reason I love Resident Evil 3 Remake, for example, is because of the thrill of the hunt, the adrenaline. It bonds with the horror quite naturally. This game's chases do that so well. And I love that there's more to it than just walking, like with the Huggy Wuggy chase in Poppy Playtime Chapter 1. For this game, you have to do actual platforming and stuff, along with trying to run away. Perfect. This game really fuels that feeling of being the prey, being hunted down by a wild predator. I do hope we get more than 2 chases in the sequel though, that would be nice. I should also mention that thanks to an official YouTube short, we know the lead creator hates horror games due to being afraid of them, so him making a horror game, it makes sense, he knows what gets him scared. As for other gameplay, there is one-off sections like this dodging one here where you have to try to avoid these things that push you into blades. Pretty cool, pretty cute. There's these little flicky switch missions, also pretty fun. They even actually tie these flicky switches into the chases, which I do like. For the switches, there's a limited time, and within that time you have to hit all of them, and they don't get boring even if they are used a lot here, just because how short the game really is. I mean, it's at most 2 to 3 hours, but it's a great 2 to 3 hours. There's also this incinerator one where you have to grind on rails and flick switches at the end of each one, but then also flick one mid-air, which is also just really fun to do. There is also the water park with 2 sets of these circuit flick switch puzzles to deal with, but you can literally exploit this entire room and just not do the flick switch part whatsoever. There's also wall jumping pads where you can literally just spam the button instead of actually trying to wall jump off of each one, and the game tells you to do that, so it's not me cheating, it's not an exploit. I also just want to mention how much of a death trap though this goddamn water park is. No, not for the gameplay, no, not for the game show, I mean just for customers, because it's clear that this is also meant to be a place for customers to go to for fun. The issue is, when you go out of these slides, you splat into the wall. The water is way too shallow to do literally anything. There's these fans you can easily hit your head against the ceiling if you jump on them. To get out, you also need to jump on trampoline. I mean, trampolines in a water park, that already should get these guys sued. I mean, that's like 1,000 lawsuits right there. Speaking of this water park area though, there's actually 2 keys you need to progress when you get to an area before this. And out of these 2 areas, the water park's one of them. What about the other one? Well, the other one is a pretty fun trampoline challenge. One thing I will say real quick though before I talk about that, the boxes of cereal, in game, the cereal box just looks like really low quality and the colour's off. What happened here? The ones in the opening of the game were fine. For the other key, you need to go to this trampoline park area where you have to jump through rings like Superman 64 if it starred Tigger, catch up to these little plush things called Noob Noobs, press them, and then they explode. I do wish that failing this minigame did have a punishment though. Like, if you fail, you just kind of try again. But if you fail, what should have happened is maybe, I don't know, the Noob Queen comes out and kills you or something, I don't know. Here's Dwight Fairfield from Dead by Daylight cosplaying as a Noob. There's also this Henry mission here before the Henry chase where you need to activate all 6 phones to power up a switch that will open your escape. This one's pretty cool, I won't lie. It also adds some interesting lore. You see, the phones actually hurt him, as yes, he's a telephone being, but like, it just rings over and over in his head. That sounds very terrifying. He's basically the toy phone from Toy Story 3 mixed with William Birkin from Resident Evil 2, and it's pretty tragic.
Keep ringing this phone! I'm sick of it! The ringing, it won't stop! It never stops! You did this to me! It hurts!
I gotta say, he's got a very intimidating design too. From the messed up eyes, the teeth that are just drawn on, the heavy footsteps like Mr. X from Resident Evil 2. He's very intimidating for sure, despite the kiddish design. I love this version of him earlier where we see he's just a regular toy phone on wheels. I mean, I think it's him, it might be a separate consciousness, I'm not sure. Disney need to stop making baby versions of their characters. Oh my god, this is getting excessive, guys. Henry's little challenge here also has a safe area, which could be seen as abusable, but it really isn't because it's just hard to tell where you are at points, because everything kind of looks the same, and that's intentionally done, and I think well done, as you're meant to use this duck guy as a scanner. Also, my dumbass for the first 2 playthroughs thought this was really hard, when actually no, he just knew where I was at all times because I wouldn't stop sprinting. Oops. Going back a sec though, you need this duck guy. He's also going after Henry. Upon meeting Duck, he does attack you at first, which causes you to fight back. I love how he has a jail cell with a Henry plush just locks behind it. Deputy Duck doesn't feel that useful though. He can scan, which is good for this one mission, and collectibles, but that's it. There's also a flash, but it's genuinely worthless outside of like one micro instance. That micro instance isn't even what it's built for. I used it to try and see this text here, and then screenshot it. Honest to God, on the PlayStation Store they described Deputy Duck as this super important thing, and like, you'd think he was Clank, but he is not. He is C-3PO in LEGO Star Wars levels of useless. Like, he has his moments, I guess, but they're so few and far between that it's like, do you really care? After Henry's chase, you're in a bathroom and hear him beg Frankie for another chance before seemingly dying. Your call has been disconnected. You see him later on in the hub before going after the 2 keys. He's a lot more damaged, and in this scene, he dies for real via I didn't know Henry Hotline was in Task Force X. He says how everything's rigged, yet you would still die at the end and nothing will ever change. I love the fact that he's in a timeout corner room for not killing you. That's genuinely the funniest thing in the entire game. He also does the Borderlands 1 box art pose. He also returns Deputy Duck to you, but way more damaged. So let me get something straight here a second. As a gift for surviving so well, even though he thinks the whole thing's rigged for me to win anyway, well, up until the end, he gives me something he took from me, but then also damaged it before giving it back? Like, huh? Henry, how would you like it if I shove your Robocop Funko Pop in a broken gas station toilet and then give it back to you, huh? Would you like that? Now then, go to your room, no phone privileges for a week. Before meeting Henry, don't worry your mask-covered head. You meet the host, the real Frankie, and totally not a lazily written plot device to add a twist to the story to keep the viewers entertained so the show... I ran out of breath trying to say that. Yeah, just play the clip.
Lucky contestant! What a surprise! Don't worry your mask-covered head. I'm the real Frankie, and totally not a lazily written plot device to add a twist to the story to keep our viewers entertained so we can avoid going bankrupt.
Authorities have discovered 3 dead bodies on the premises of Frankie's Parkour Palace, who seem to be 3 of the 4 unfortunate contestants chosen to participate in the company's last game show before bankruptcy. 1 contestant seems to still be on the premises and potentially alone.
I like how he knows how to act friendly, but it's very clear that he's not really on your side. Real Frankie even stops Monster Frankie from killing you at a few points just because of how he wants the show to play out. That's pretty cool. I do like how the 2 Frankies feel quite different though, I can't lie. Monster Frankie just also randomly appearing at points and just building up his scary image. There's also certain areas where you have to do parkour challenges and you can't fail like a real platformer, because if you do, Frankie will kill you. There is hiding spots that you can use to then not die, but some of those can be a little tricky to find at first. This rabbit just doesn't like cheaters. He's loyal to his women. But to be fair, if your partner was Jessica Rabbit, you'd be too. All jokes aside, if Ban Ban and Huggy Wuggy can get partners, he definitely can. Or maybe he's into the skunk lady from Indigo Park. As for the final section, after getting the keys, you can enter the final areas. Hey look, there's a live chat. Cool. They got this so accurate too, from the mixed opinions from viewers, the one person making a spelling error and correcting themselves right afterwards. It reminds me of Guns Akimbo if anyone's seen that movie. Definitely recommend it, by the way. What I mean by this though is just because how the people watching don't really treat the character like a person, more so a fictional character in a show they're watching. Even if it's clear it's real, they treat it like that. This just being someone who could very well die for real isn't a concern to these people, and I like how that adds to the twisted world. It's one of the few moments the game actually has implications of a dark world outside of the show. Another example has to be when we meet host Frankie. The police knew about the source of death and knew it was because of the game show. They knew that there was another player still there and just didn't do anything. This show's been alive and kicking for now 57 seasons, but the show still airs. Wait, if it's on live TV, how are people commenting in chat? Also, what does this message mean? I know it's you, where is my brother? I really hope the sequel addresses that, because that's really cryptic and interesting. Now, according to the game, it's time for one final challenge. One final challenge to rule them all. One final challenge to find them. One final challenge to bring them all, and in the darkness bind them. As for the design of the final star, you get this one section where you need to go up this mountain while slime rises up. The game clearly has inspirations from Fall Guys, but this is the most blatant point of it, I think, as this is a direct minigame. There's also this red area, and it has one of these platforms I haven't talked about yet, because these rotating ones are just so annoying to deal with. After that is the final boss, where the mission notification actually tells you good luck. Like, even the game's like, lol, you're fucked.
One last place to go, lucky contestant.
The final boss is an arena-style chase battle where you need to keep avoiding Frankie whilst dealing with these tiles that fall when you run on them. It's kind of like Crash Bandicoot 2's fight against Tiny Tiger. In fact, you know what, I take it back, this is more Fall Guys inspired than the slime one. But even then, this is just the spleef minigame in things like Minecraft. You need to survive 2 minutes on these hexagons, hit a switch, and then confirm your win. Monster Frankie dies and Lucky luckily survives with no explanation. I guess he's just lucky. I love the fake credit sequence here, but also just the fact that Frankie is just himself. That's so funny. One strategy that really helps is to start with any layer, going by the outside first and closing in where you can. Also, the dash just really helps with dodging Frankie. It also helps with even bigger and longer jumps. Noobs also drop down occasionally to blow up more hexagons, but they're mostly out of the way if I'm being honest. On the whiteboard earlier, you could see the real Frankie wanted you to die at this point. I like that detail, but then also because of that, he says this. Not only is that line just raw as hell with how it's delivered, but he genuinely does sound super angry, and the F-bomb is censored because on TV you can't swear. I mean, violence and stuff, fine I guess, but this, oh no. I do think this final challenge fits well as it tests your ability in surviving while being hunted down. It's also just done in a new way instead of just ending with a chase, so I'm glad the final battle did something else. After winning, we're taken to the money displayed Squid Game style, how bad Lucky's living situation was before the game's events. I want to know though, did we sign up when we found the invitation or were we forced into it like the Hunger Games? If we had a choice, what if all 4 players declined? Then there's no show, or hell, what if a child buys the cereal? Or what if people don't buy the cereal to protest? The host then suggests how Lucky and him both need each other. He then states how a star doesn't stay for just 1 season. Someone clearly hasn't watched the 2005 season of Doctor Who. Christopher didn't stick around for more than 1 season, and his character turned into a Scottish guy. The game ends with Lucky joining Frankie as we see this show get renewed for another season. The game ends on a final shot of the cereal reflecting the opening. This makes me wonder, for a sequel, as the new contestant throughout the game, will Lucky be teamed up with Frankie to rig and try to kill us? Is he going to be playing against us? You could even have more combat tied into the gameplay too, like they could have those trampoline park things with the big old beams you have to like hit each other with to knock each other off. Like that would be cool. You fight the protagonist from the first game and do that. Finding Frankie as a game, you can tell the devs had tons of fun making, and I'm glad they did honestly. This really just does feel like a very passionate project. I honestly am so hyped for the movie that's happening, which isn't an adaptation but rather a different canon story in this universe, but then also Superlu's next games, Finding Frankie 2 and Someone's Inside Me. To go back to what I said at the start, a huge issue with indie horror is often the gameplay feels like second priority to the marketability, the lore, things like that. But Finding Frankie doesn't have that problem. To quote Eye of the Tiger, these other games, they trade their passion for story. That's totally the quote without any changes, I swear, don't look it up, you'll prove me wrong. They do still have open for interpretation moments, or just overall cliffhanger elements, like Lucky's new role isn't revealed here. And for the first game by a new developer team, this being their first title is nothing to scoff at. What are the credits like anyway? Okay, that's cool. They even got a YouTuber to make the song, and like the song's literally called We're All In This Together. Troy Bolton would be so proud. If you continue after beating the game, rather than deleting your save data, you can go to this room here to the side of the mountain, get a key, and then you get this secret room. This door takes us to a secret area, and I feel like this does have a bit of a teaser towards the sequel in a way. You see, next to the Frankie animatronic, there's this note that mentions 2039. If each season is annual, having one per year as most TV shows would do, assuming that this season is 2038, that means this show's been going on since 1981. And that does explain the VHS tapes which were used instead of golden tickets. I mean, it doesn't explain like how anyone in the year 2038 has a VHS player ready for if they win. Don't worry about that. This game just really is amazing to me. I'll admit the platinum trophy's kinda lacking, like it's just collectibles and then like booping a nose, beating the game, like very tiny stuff. Oddly no speedrunning trophy. That's like the most obvious thing they could have done for this trophy list. If you like games you can replay a ton for speedrunning purposes, this is an obvious no-brainer to pick up. Well then, let's hope Finding Frankie has plenty more seasons to come, but for now I recommend picking up a controller and playing Finding Frankie.